Welcome to Buffalo Campday Recap. I'm Thad Brown with AJ Feldman. Today, day 8 of Bills Camp here at St. John Fisher University. Am I right about that? I think so.
I think so.
3 days first week, then 4 last week, plus
I think this might be 9.
well, if we count the stadium practice, it's day 9. I always lose track this time of year. We'll go with
8/9.
We'll go with 9. We'll count the stadium practice. So, day 9 of Bills Camp, Sunday practice. Later in the morning, it began 11:45 instead of 9:45. The only one of those all of camp. Also, no pads for this practice today. And AJ, I think the number one story, pretty easy. Jordan Phillips activated off PUP. Again, no pads today, so he didn't do hardcore defensive line stuff, but he was back.
Yeah, and this was a guy that I think, certainly from what Brandon Beane said at the initial press conference, it seemed like he might be a guy that helps us out with a roster spot and putting him on the PUP list, getting him out the first 4 games, helping with the roster crunch. For him to come back this early, 8/9 practices into training
Whatever
camp,
it is.
I think that's a really good sign for him. He said he had the shoulder surgery on February 14th of last year on Valentine's Day. So I think this is a good sign for Phillips.
I think we both thought, and I agree with you, after that initial Brandon Beane press conference, we weren't sure if he'd be back for week 1. And as it turns out, he beats week 1 of the preseason. So I think there's no doubt, barring some sort of setback, he's going to be ready to go for the start of the season, which does kind of change your defensive tackle outlook a little bit. There was some wonder about if Phillips starts on PUP, couldn't Eli Anku, perhaps make the roster, someone else down the depth chart. But now, I think there's a good chance they go Oliver, Settle, Phillips, Poona Ford, and Daquan, and that will be your depth chart, in the middle, if they even keep all 5 of those guys. I think they will, but that will be the extent of it now. One injury today at practice. Cam Lewis went down hard, fell backwards trying to make an interception. No foul play, no one going too hard, just a play where he fell on his back and hit his head, what appeared to be pretty hard on the turf. Was on the ground for a minute or two. Trainers escorted him off. Hopefully he's okay. No update on that so far.
And he was walking off the field under his own power. Didn't need to, brace himself on anybody. He was walking slowly, but he walked off the field under his own power. Our first real big injury, we'll see, obviously a head injury, an apparent head injury. You want to play that pretty safe.
For sure. Now, on the field, the story was also in the defensive backfield. Christian Benford today, not only did he have 2 interceptions, which by itself would make him the story, but in addition, he had his most first-team reps since probably day 1 at camp. And I think at this point, walking out to this practice today, I kind of had the feeling that second corner job was a 2-horse race between Dane Jackson and Kyer Elam. Well, Christian Benford played him right back into the mix today with today's practice performance.
You love to see a guy take advantage of the opportunity that he gets, because like you said, he had really fallen off of there, so this was maybe a do-or-die practice for him. He certainly did a lot with his moments. Like you said, 2 interceptions. Some of them were him simply being in the right place at the right time, but others he kind of manufactured where he was.
Yeah, the first interception was a play where it seemed like he didn't have any obvious responsibility as a receiver. The offensive formation of 3 receivers to the opposite side of the field, one of them, maybe more than one, was trying to cross over the other side. He might have he certainly got down the field. It might have been him sinking in zone coverage and being in the right position. The second one was at the very end of practice. It was the second team offense trying to score a touchdown with 45 seconds to go from the 40. Kyle Allen's pass was soft, to say the least, and Benford just jumped it. I don't know how much coverage or whatever skill he showed there, but it was an easy play and he made it look easy and dominated. So I don't know if this puts Benford back in the mix. To me, I think that even when Benford has not been with the first team, he hasn't been doing enough on the second and whatever other team he's played on to merit a realistic shot at having that corner 2 spot up until today. Today might have changed some things.
And kind of piggybacking off that point, Kyle Allen, the backup quarterback position, coming into camp, we knew, Kyle Allen isn't Case Keenum. He isn't even Mitch Trubisky with the pedigree and the physical tools and some experience in the league. Kyle Allen hasn't looked that great in training camp so far.
No, I mean, this has not. Now, look, I don't think Josh Allen has looked great by his standard in training camp. Certainly good enough to feel good about the offense, but I don't think any of the three quarterbacks have been spectacular. I do think Kyle Allen has looked good enough that, okay, he's the backup and we're not going to hurt ourselves. But you and I were talking about, if there was another option, if someone out there, got released, Kyle Allen has not done enough to where I would say there's absolutely no shot that the Bills would pick someone else up. Now, the backup quarterback job might be as much about who Josh Allen likes to work with in the room as much as what the guy does on the field. Because let's be fair, if Josh Allen suffered some sort of serious, 10 to 15 game injury, it don't matter who the backup is. The season's pretty much toast. This discussion is about if Allen's out 2, 3, 4, 5 games, is there a better option to maybe hold the fort than what we've seen from Kyle Allen so far?
Yeah, because Matt Barkley and Kyle Allen, if you were to tell random person off the street who doesn't know their pedigree, the number, anything like that, if you ask them who's the backup quarterback, who's the number 3, I don't know if you'd really be able to tell. It's just been mediocre, middling, bad throws, some moments. But like you said, it's not out of the realm of possibility that the Bills try and look to, trade a 7th round pick for somebody, get someone off the cut line. There isn't any obvious names. I took a look at the depth chart. There's not okay, wow, this is a guy that, the Bills should go and get. But it's not a discussion you want to be having 9 practices in the training camp.
I will say this. I think the likelihood of them changing out the backup quarterback is pretty small, but it is worth the discussion time for sure. All right, speaking of, we talked a little bit about the rotations today. Like we said, Christian Benford, a lot of time with the ones, but Dane Jackson was out there first at corner 2. Offensive guard, pretty much the same as it's been. Osiris Torrance getting more of the reps, but Ryan Bates still getting regular time with the first team. Then a linebacker today, a little unusual. We thought this would be a Terrell Dotson day. Terrell Bernard then came in later and did have some first-team reps. I will say that during individual drills, there was a moment where Dotson came out and needed to be retaped by trainers. I don't know if I want to call it an injury, but something did happen. I don't know if that had anything to do with why Dotson got more time, which was funny because linebacker coach Bobby Babbage spoke to the media today, and I gave him the question, with these other rotation, all those other jobs up for grabs, guys kind of come in and out whenever, but with linebacker, whoever the first team guy has been up until today has been the same guy all day. And he said, because we want these guys learning multiple positions, when it's Dotson's day to be the first team middle, we want him not to have to worry about that other stuff. Today, things change. My only guess, like I said, is that very small injury in individual drills, but the best I got.
And it's a position where, in a perfect world, your middle linebacker stays on the field, he never comes off. So it's much more difficult to platoon a guy like we saw last year at cornerback too. So it makes sense. It is a little interesting, like you said, that the one time we got an answer about it, things changed differently. I do want to point out one thing about the guard rotation, and this has probably been the case throughout the camp, but just the first time I've seen it. I was watching quarterbacks and centers doing exchanges before. Only 2 guys took center exchanges from Josh Allen. It was Mitch Morrison, it was Ryan Bates. So it's just another thinking that, here's their backup center right now.
We've talked a little bit about Ryan Bates maybe hurting himself with his versatility. They want to, protect him as the backup center. Now, that being said, look, if Bates was a much better player, obviously better than Osiris Torrance or Connor McGovern, he'd be in. Mm-hmm. But, ties in this case are going to go to Torrance, in part because he's a recent second-round pick, but also because of that versatility factor. Speaking of the defensive line, or the line of scrimmage, we've talked a little bit about Greg Rousseau playing defensive tackle. That was more consistent in this practice than I think it's been in any other practice leading up to this. Clearly, that's part of the game plan. I don't know how much it will be a part of the game plan, but Rousseau talked about the fact that rushing inside makes him a better rusher outside. He did have a sack from the outside today. With no pads on, it's hard to take it too seriously. But I am fascinated to see how Rousseau gets managed and the fact that the Bills seem to like him on the inside, because as I've said, I don't particularly prefer him there because I think he's so long, you're taking away one of his strengths by putting him inside a little phone booth, having him play defensive tackle.
And it is interesting now, obviously Sean McDermott has rotated guys in and out, in and out, in and out. I don't know how many times we've seen a guy play both inside and outside. Usually it's, the inside guys go in and out for each other.
I will say it happens regularly enough. I think more so in this particular camp. Mm-hmm. I think in part because they're trying to find a spot for Rousseau, but also because they're trying to see if they can keep Boogie Basham on the roster doing that as well.
Yeah, and plus you haven't had Jordan Phillips out there, so there's some more reps at D-tackle, but definitely something interesting to note that we didn't see a ton last year in the regular season. All
right, time for our turkey burgers for today. I'm going to go first. A player who probably deserves more turkey burgers than we've given him, but it's the quarterback. You expect greatness out of him all the time. Josh Allen gets a turkey burger from me today. He did have 2 interceptions. The one to Benford we talked about. What's the other one? I forget off the top of my head. He had a second one today, right?
I don't think he did.
I thought he did. No?
He was throwing away a lot of passes. But
yeah, he did a lot of that today. So, whatever. But I'm trying to give the guy a turkey burger. We're talking about negatives. Bottom line, look, he had
You're always trying to invent things that are wrong with Josh Allen, Thad.
That's what I do.
I'm going to be the Twitter for you here.
Yeah, thanks.
I've got your back, Bills Mafia.
Right. Thanks, AJ. I appreciate the help there. But today, he had one throw, just an absolute laser beam. It was an in-cut to Stephon Diggs over the middle, where you could tell he wound up, and this is as hard as I have to throw it. And we see it all the time. It doesn't make it any less impressive. It's still a whole lot of fun to see. He had another play today, too, and you could see him talking about it with Gabe Davis after the play. You said, and I didn't see this part, I was watching Gabe, but Josh kind of rolled to his right, had Stephon Diggs open short, and then kind of weirdly off balance decided to go down the field a little further to Gabe Davis. Davis had to make a nice little catch to make the play, and Josh seemed to be telling Gabe Davis later that halfway through throwing the ball to Diggs, he changed his mind and kind of twisted himself across to make the play down the field. One of those plays only Josh Allen makes.
Yeah, there was a defender kind of near the line of scrimmage in between Diggs and Josh. So I think when he started to wind up hard, that wasn't a throw that he could get to. If he lobs it over the defender, it was an easy pitch and catch. But the fact that he already started winding up, then he changes his mind and throws it in a nice little hole, and Davis makes the catch there. Another turkey burger I want to give out, Ken Dorsey. I thought he had some nice moments. He had some good plays with the two tight end sets, a little screenplay that worked out well. And there were just multiple plays where the guys who were getting the receptions were so wide open. Like Dawson Knox had one very early in training camp. I'm like, yeah, that was great that Knox got that catch, but he didn't really do anything. It was just wide open. So I'm going to give that to the offensive coordinator, Ken Dorsey.
It's a Ken Dorsey play, I agree. I'm going to go with Taron Johnson today. End of practice, the Bills let the first and the second team try and score in last-minute situations. With the first team on the field, they had a minute to go, 40 yards with one timeout. Last play was from the 18. Taron was ISO'd with Khalil Shakir, side of the end zone. Josh Allen tried to force one in there. Really the only play he had, in a situation where you have to throw it. Taron Johnson was all over it. Not a surprise, not anything abnormal from him, but again, another repeated example of greatness from the Bills slot corner.
It was a long time for him to cover that route, too.
That's fair, too.
It was a long distance traveled as well. I think he came all the way across the field, too.
Josh Allen was doing his normal scramble thing, and it forces defenders to be on a receiver longer, for sure.
So it was very nice. And then, like we mentioned before, Christian Benford gets a turkey burger, gets his moment with the first team a lot, makes the most of it with 2 interceptions. Easy turkey burger.
All right. That's all we got for today, day 9. So we're going to go with of camp. Is complete. Only 3 days of camp left. Monday's practice will be the only practice without any fans, but there will still be media here, so we will be here with another version of Camp Day Recap tomorrow. For AJ Feldman, I'm Thad Brown. Thanks for watching on RochesterFirst.com. Thanks for listening wherever you get your podcasts. We'll see you again Monday from St. John Fisher.